I went to D.C. to attend President Trump's inauguration, and it was awesome. It was an incredible experience, but it also had some gotchas for us when we went because of the fact that there was such crazy weather. So we're going to talk about, the ins and outs of attending an inauguration the way that we did, in bad weather, and give you some tips and tricks and review the entire experience on today's episode on the Coleman Nation. Let's go. So I had the privilege of attending Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th, 2025, and it was a fantastic event. But there were some gotchas regarding the weather, so this episode will act as a review of what I got to participate in and some tips for you. If you're ever planning to attend an inauguration in snow and bad weather, you'll want to watch this episode from start to finish so you can do so and hit that inauguration experience with as few headaches and bumps in the road as possible. My first tip is to plan to fly in a few days before the inauguration. Make it a bit of a vacation. Get there, 3 or 4 days beforehand and enjoy the city. We would have done so, but we didn't want to be away from, our infant daughter for too long. And so my wife and I decided to just pop in and pop out real quick. But I suggest taking more time if you have the opportunity to do so. The thing is, going into DC, it's so rich with culture and history. You can go around and, in the past, I've gone to DC and I've visited, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, Arlington Cemetery, the Spy Museum. We've gone to all these different places. And I think that if you've got the opportunity around an event like the inauguration to plan for something a little bit more, vacation oriented, it'll make the entire situation less pressure. Okay, so that's the first thing, is go a few days early, as opposed to what we did, which was arrive the day of the inauguration. Right. So the second tip deals with obtaining tickets, which you need to square away well before the event. So we reached out to one of our congressional representatives and simply asked if we could get some tickets. And she came through with flying colors. You don't know where you're sitting until you get your tickets, by the way, unless you're a super VIP. But when we got them, we saw that ours would have been right near the front, to the left of the entire event. And I would have been, I say I would have been, because the weather moved the entire event indoors to the Capitol Rotunda, which we weren't on the list for. If you can imagine, there was, plans for 100,000 ticketed people, and then all the way back in the Capitol Mall, there was something like 250,000 people that that were planning to arrive. But because of flight cancellations and all that kind of stuff, they moved it indoors. But now they went from, the Capitol Mall, which would easily hold a, 250,000, 500,000 people, down to just whatever you can fit inside the Capitol, which is a few hundred people, right? So we didn't make that list, but the fact is that we had some pretty amazing seats if we had had it outside. So it was a little bit of a bummer in that regard. So there's a process for getting tickets. The first, the inaugural committee will register you and the exact number of tickets that you request. It takes a day or two and you'll get confirmation of the request. So I sent in the email confirmation. So we got the invitation and I said, okay, well, now you need to register. So then we registered, right? And once we got that request, okay? Then there are 2 additional weeks, right? During which they're probably doing background checks. I don't know, but there's some time. It took some time. Right? You then get another confirmation to which you now must RSVP. So first you reserve them, then they vet you, then they do another RSVP, and then you have to go back and assign someone as a third email, assign someone to pick up your tickets. And they give you an option for a backup person to pick up your tickets. So this was fortunate for us because they had to, they had to be picked up by Sunday night before 7 p.m. And we didn't land until Monday like Monday, we would have not had a chance to be able to get our tickets. So our second designee was, a DC local, and she was incredible, right? And this is my cousin, and she was there, and she picked up the tickets, and actually brought them to us at the airport. Oh my gosh, she is incredible. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the fact that she did that, right? And so on to the adventure. First of all, we planned on leaving on Sunday, the day before the inauguration, but a giant cold front moved in and all the flights were canceled. So we couldn't fly in. I mean, literally, we were on our way to the airport, boom, flights canceled, all the flights are canceled. So we couldn't even go in until Monday, the day of the actual event, and our plane landed after the inauguration was over, right? So I was fine with that because many of the other things that were happening, including multiple rallies and other events, were occurring at the same time. So the bad news is that we didn't get to go, attend the actual inauguration, but we wouldn't have been able to even if we were there, just because everything got moved inside. And, you take 100,000 down to like 1% of the people getting in there. That was to be expected. But the good news is that we got a souvenir of the ticket signed by, Senator Amy Klobuchar. And we, had the tickets to one of the main inaugural balls that was happening that night. So the tickets to the ball were provided by the same congressional rep who provided our inauguration tickets, right? And so we're very, very thankful that she was able to pull through for us. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate her for doing so. And then the ball that we went to, and she also got us tickets to the ball, was the Liberty Inauguration Ball. So just so you understand that there are 3 different balls that are going on at that same time. So there's the Liberty Ball, there is the Commander-in-Chief Ball, and there's the Starlight Ball. So each one has a different audience. The Commander-in-Chief, military. Starlight Ball, big donors. Liberty Ball, all of the support, people that are supporting the campaign. Okay. So here's the next tip. If you get tickets to a ball, make sure you find out exactly where it is in advance. In our case, neither the email we got nor the tickets actually said where the ball was. I couldn't find it on Google. And as time got closer, I panicked. I was told it was at a convention hall, but which one? Finally, one of the hotel staff took pity on me and told me that there was only one convention hall in D.C. proper, and it was called the Walter E. Washington Convention Hall. So can you imagine? I'm running around like an idiot trying to find out where this inaugural ball is. There's nowhere you can find it. You go look on the website for the inaugural committee, and all they have is old pictures of prior years' inaugurations. It was a little maddening. Okay, so I'm just letting you know that is to be expected. So the next tip is, if you're, coming into bad weather as we did, make sure you dress for it. We had to wait 90 minutes to get into the Liberty Ball through many switchbacks in line, and then through 2 man-made tunnels, right? These like, these nylon tunnels that you got to go through. So we left our hotel at about 5:30, but we didn't actually get in until about 7:15. That whole time we were standing outside in freezing temperatures, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was so cold. And unfortunately, with where it was, that we were outside, there were so many women that did not dress for there were probably men that were there too, but the women kind of stood out. They were in ball gowns. They were wearing no shoes in 10, 15 degree weather. It was crazy, right? So we saw these women that were out there with ballroom attire. They had no coats, and they thought that they were just going to walk right into the ball. Well, all of the security was outside, and so they were waiting in the freezing cold, and they looked miserable, So because you'll be on your feet a lot, maybe the whole time, you should wear comfortable, even if not quite fashionable, but if you can get fashionable / comfortable shoes, very highly recommended. Okay, so we saw people that had ultra fashionable shoes, everything from tuxedo, the shiny patent leather shoes, all the way to, the women wearing high heels and so forth. And their feet were killing them. They ended walking around in their bare feet. It was totally insane. So if the weather is cold, make sure your shoes are also warm. As the dress code realized, it's a formal affair. Don't show up in jeans and a t-shirt. You're going to feel really weird. I didn't see a single person who was underdressed. Everyone was in cocktail party attire or black tie. right? So the next tip is before you get into an Uber or Lyft to take you to a ball, make sure you see how close you are. If we had just walked from our hotel, we would have been in front of the security area in 10 to 15 minutes. Instead, we got an Uber that dropped us off towards the end of the line, which was several blocks long. So another tip that, if your event is in the Walter E. Washington Convention Hall and your budget will allow it, stay at the Marriott Marquis. Okay, now this isn't an endorsement of Marriott or anything like that, although I am a Marriott member. But the Marriott Marquis is connected to the convention hall. We stayed at a wonderful hotel called the Royal Sonesta on Massachusetts Avenue, which was right down the street. But if we had stayed at the Marquis, we could have gone down an elevator and walked right into the ball. Like literally just gone down of our hotel elevator and walked right in. That would have been really smart. It was actually my, first choice, but I couldn't justify it. It was a little over $3,000 per night. So just understand, supply and demand, it's going to be expensive to go there, right? Royal Sonesta, very reasonable for that period of time. If you can book your rooms way ahead of it in advance, I would highly recommend that to you too. So next tip, be prepared for the security, which as you might guess is substantial. 6 law enforcement agencies were on duty: the Secret Service, the Capitol Police, military personnel, the D.C. Metro Police, and police officers, flown in from all over the country and the National Guard. Okay, so all of these people, we had police officers that were there from Kansas. We had police officers that were, from Florida. There were police officers from all over the country that were manned. The security was crazy. So you have to empty everything in your pockets. You go through the metal detectors. You undergo a hand scan, with one of the wands from top to bottom. Women cannot carry a normal size purse, only a tiny little clutch. So make sure you check, that's the requirement. And even that will be thoroughly searched. So my wife had, a tiny little clutch and they took everything out of it, checked the lining, all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a bottleneck, understandably so, at security. So you're going to be there. Okay. So next tip. Unless you know for sure there will be food at the event you're going to, you should eat beforehand. The ball we went to had, finger foods, which was actually pretty good, but given the long wait, you'll probably be hungry. So you might want to have an early dinner. This was an absolutely great event, the Liberty inaugural ball, and I'm super stoked we got to go. The president and vice president both spoke. The entertainment was by Jason Aldean, Billy Ray Cyrus, the Village People, and Nelly, right, were there. It was all fantastic, really fun, great audience. There was also a dance and incredible, a painter, this one painter, her name was Vanessa Harabuena. She painted a portrait of Trump live on stage. And she was awesome. She was absolutely incredible. So we had a chance to meet several notable people. We ran into Representative Brian Mast from Florida. I saw other congressional reps and celebrities, including Amber Rose and Sebastian Gorka. If anyone worries about this, they have incredible medical assistance when needed. I might not have ever noticed it, but I happened to walk past a woman having a full-on seizure. And her date caught her before she fell. And within 5 seconds, I'm literally talking 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000. From when she was on the ground, 5 seconds later, there were 3 EMTs with a wheelchair, right? They also appeared, if anyone was drunk or passed out, right? Man, they were on it. My hat's off to those guys for being so incredibly present. And unassuming. You wouldn't have seen them, but they were there. And it was amazing to see their reaction time of making sure that people were safe and well cared for. So another interesting tip of something that was available for us that was worth taking advantage of, and leaving the ball, it was even colder than when we arrived. Our feet were worn out and we were really tired, and the Uber station was blocks away. We decided to walk, but then we saw that they had these rickshaws and you could take, those wherever you needed to go. These little bicycle guys, little rickshaw in there, and it wasn't cheap. So I'm just going to tell you this right now. If you're in a desert and you need water, you're going to pay whatever you whatever is asked of you for that water, right? So this is kind of one of those situations where it was $10 a minute, $10 a minute with a 10-minute minimum, right? So it's $10 a minute with a 10-minute minimum. Okay, so you do the math, right? So, but we weren't about to argue in the shape that we were in. It was a 6-minute ride back to our hotel, but that was forever if we had to walk, as slowly as we were, right? So all in all, it was a really positive experience. I wish I'd been able to participate in more of it, but it was really, really fun. It was also historical. Love him or hate him, I think that Trump is, coming in prepared to do the job he was elected to do. He was elected overwhelmingly by the majority of the American people, to do his job. While filming this episode, he's just a few days, into his presidency, and his approval ratings are off the charts. All right, I know some people who are severely disappointed, but I suggest that they look at some of the net positives, because there will be many net positives as a result of President Trump's term as president here as number 47. So I'm excited for the future. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them if it's something I have some insight on. If there's something about the experience, like I expect that this episode is going to wind up being watched not now, but in 2029 at the next inauguration. It's going to be like, oh man, I want to make sure that I hope you in 2029. I hope you have much better weather than we had in 2025. But if not, if any of the experiences are the same, watch this episode and you can have some good insight onto the experience overall. So make sure as a result, make sure that you like and subscribe this. Turn on your notifications, so that you know that when we post future episodes. I'd love to hear your comments. Did you go to the inauguration? Have you been to an inauguration? What are some of your thoughts about the future? Good or bad? I know it's a very controversial subject, but I'm excited to be able to, get the show on the road and make this country great. So we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Coleman Nation. Take care, everybody.